Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Honyato. Tonight, court orders interim forfeiture of more properties linked to former Minister of Petroleum Diezani Alison Madueke, valued at 2.6 billion naira. President Buhari meets with security chiefs, orders intensified operations to end renewed attacks in the northeast and other security challenges across the country. The federal government identifies scientific audience measurement as major factor in ongoing broadcast digitization process in Nigeria. And surviving suspects in the Barcelona van attack testify in court, say plan was to use explosives against key monuments in the city.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's central bank governor calls for close relationship with financial sector regulators to ensure growth and stability of the country's economy.
On sports news, Mikel Obi and Odion Ighalo return as Super Eagles coach Gernot Rohr releases his final squad for next month's 2018 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Cameroon.
And from Abuja, participants at the Hookah Center Forum in Abuja ask federal government to address concerns of terror victims in its reintegration program.
President Muhammadu Buhari today met with service chiefs at the State House in Abuja to discuss the state of security in Nigeria. The meeting comes less than 48 hours after he made a state broadcast on Monday, and from all indications, the president seems ready to make real his promises to end insurgency in the northeast and improve security. The Chief of Defence Staff, General Gabriel Olonishakin, told State House correspondents after the meeting that all security issues and threats were discussed with the president.
And also he has directed on some areas we should look at so as to enhance our operations within the country. I must say that in his address, he talked about the unity of the nation, and which is non-negotiable. And the military has been fully instructed to ensure that that directive is carried out to the lead. Everything about life, everything, the issues of security, every security threat, all the security threats were treated one after the other, ranging from the terrorism to kidnapping to herdsmen, farmers, to the IPOB issue. All were treated, and comments were made as to what and to do as to those issues. On the Boko Haram issue, as you all know, it's like an asymmetric warfare. It's not that the Boko Haram had stepped up their game. It's just the issue of suicide bombing that had been the problem. And of course, we are also working with the security agencies, the intelligence agencies, to make sure that we'll address that menace.
And President Muhammadu Buhari's broadcast on Monday again underscored the need to improve the state of security across the country. The president also reiterated that the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable. This next report chronicles some of the issues around insecurity in the country.
On his first day at work after over 100 days on medical vacation, the president makes it very clear what has agitated his mind and how he intends to deal.
I am charging the security agencies not to let the successes achieved in the last 18 months be a sign to relax.
A safe summary of his morning broadcast suggests he's acquainted with spades of insecurity across the country, whether it be agitations for self-determination, kidnapping, like in the case of some university lecturers who are yet to regain their freedom, bombs going off abruptly in suicide killings, death in the house of God, the Ozubuli incident, hate speeches and threats that can trigger bloodshed, threats that appear more real than potential, all of which he says will not be tolerated.
Terrorists and criminals must be fought and destroyed relentlessly so that the majority of us can live in peace and safety.
Walking the talk will mean that already he has met with security chiefs in that regard. But did they become complacent, or are we up against a hydra-headed monster? Are there other marked indices strengthening the worries of today? Already, it's over 30 days and a few days left for the 40 days ultimatum given to the Ethiopia commander of Lafia Dole to capture Shekau, dead or alive. Will he be finally unmasked? The tale of capturing Shekau has been an all too familiar story in Nigeria. Will this be the real deal? There's a connection between unemployment and insecurity. Insecurity also triggers investment decline, a recipe for debranding. Perhaps it's really time to re-strategize, retool, and overhaul weak systems where they exist. The price of peace is far more cheaper than the sights and sounds of conflict currently renting the air. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
And to discuss the nation's security challenges, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by the Director, Defense Information, Major General John Enenche. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you.
All right, now security challenges have different manifestations, as we've seen, and the president did mention some of them in his speech, and obviously he's talked about reinforcing the fight against the insurgency. What can you say to us tonight to quell those fears, as we've seen the insurgents and all those attacks coming up once again?
Well, I want to assume that you are talking about the terrorist attacks here and there in the northeast, particularly around the epicenter in Maiduguri. Like I've said before, it is not unexpected, being that they have been degraded, decimated, and really busted at Camp Zero and other sites there through the air bombardments and the rapid attacks and raids by the members of the military, particularly the army. So you see them spreading out like ants that have been busted from an anthill. And then that one again has been supported by the unending collaboration by insiders and then sympathizers amongst the residents there, or I will call the indigenous, or people who know them very well and who have not been forthcoming with information. However, I want to assure the general public and Nigerians that measures are in place to begin to take on them and begin to take them out. However highly pleased anyone is, or any insider or any collaborator is, we are on top of the situation and we are now getting our information to begin to handle them appropriately. Well, in addition to the fact that we are really collaborating with the opinion leaders, and some of them who have been very supportive, they have been cooperating with us really, and they are now beginning to come up with information in the area of attempting and making concerted effort to get the people de-indoctrinated from what they have come to live with over the years. About Western education is bad, and if you go out to terrorize people, in the course of it, you get martyred, you will go to paradise. That we are working on that as in that area, categorically and then very seriously with the opinion leaders and people that are involved. So I want to assure the general public that let them keep faith with the armed forces of Nigeria and with the forces in the northeast, that sooner than later, terrorism will be a thing of the past in that general area.
The president also did talk about hate speech on social media. Are you finding social media to be a challenge for you as well in this fight?
Well, like all over the world, right from the civilized world, the first world, social media is a challenge. It's a double-edged sword, and we are also having a bit of it. Imagine when the president came back and addressed the nation, not up to 30 minutes later, a fake speech of the commander-in-chief was being circulated in order to do what? To derail the people on what if you are not very sharp, and if you didn't listen to the speech or you don't have a copy of it like I had it almost immediately, you wouldn't know. So looking at it from that perspective, it is a challenge everywhere. But what are we doing? In the military particularly, we are now taking on it more seriously than ever. We have our strategic media centers that monitor the social media to be able to sieve out and to react to all the ones, and the ones that will be anti-government, be anti-military, be anti-security. We tackle them appropriately with appropriate responses. But ahead of that, we are also proactive. And then we have measures in place, scientific measures, to be able to sieve this information and also to get to the public and let them know that some of this information they are getting, they are not genuine, they are not true, and their objectives are anti-corporate existence of this country. So those are the measures we are taking, and we are aware of it that it's actually a challenge, but we are living up to the challenges and facing them squarely and tackling them appropriately.
And speaking of the challenges, you know, there are different sorts of challenges that we're having. The herdsman-farmers clash is still very much an issue. It hasn't been resolved. Is there anything the military is doing differently to allay the fears of the farmers on their own side at this time? Is there anything you're going to do in a different way to handle that challenge?
Yes, definitely we are doing something. We are activating our quick response groups, just like the mobile strike teams that you have in the Northeast. We are activating them, and then we are now changing the states of our readiness at the various military formations across the country. In addition to the fact that most of the civil authorities, particularly the state government, they are very cooperative, and that is where we come in to encourage the populace and the farmers that they should not have worries so much, that we are on top of the situation as it is now. We have changed our states of readiness, like I said. We are activating our quick response forces, and all the operations within the states are also being put at alert to ensure the safety of the farmers.
Is that also the case with the kidnapping, which is also rampant across the country at the moment? I mean, I know you have talked about your state of readiness, but what are you doing exactly to handle that, beyond letting us know that you've changed one or two things in your formation?
Yes, well, I want to tell the public that they should believe in the integrity of the military. Before I say that, it is not all information that are necessary to be divulged on the air like this, because it will not even be to our advantage and to the safety of the populace. But I assure you that there are measures in place. Now, look, for instance, like in Kogi State, a lot of things has been done in the area of anti-kidnapping. The same thing with the South-South. You talk about River State, you talk about Bayelsa State. Those are measures, there are measures in place. Reviewing our capacity, reviewing our equipment holding, reviewing our collaboration with the people, and also encouraging the people to come out with more information on the activities of these kidnappers, who are not living mostly outside the populace, the residential areas. So we are working on that area specially and seriously to ensure that it is checkmated.
All right, finally now, if you could request for something to help you with your operations in terms of funding, would you say that you're properly funded at the moment and that you have all the equipment that the military needs to tackle all the various sorts of challenges that we're having at the moment? Finally now.
Yes, with all sense of seriousness and then sincerity to the government, they have funded us appropriately, adequately, commensurate with what we need. But like every other thing in the world, there's nowhere, even in the United States of America, it is never enough. Nobody has ever gotten to the end of whatever you wanted. So what military funding is all about is that it is as a need arises. Because the equipment you have today will not necessarily be useful for you tomorrow, because of the dynamics of warfare, the dynamics of conflict. That is the way it is. But at every point in time, what you have, you are actually giving, and that is the situation that we have in Nigeria. So we are not being starved of what we need at any point in time at all, but we're always making requests because of the dynamics, because of the changes.
All right, Director Defense Information, Major General John Enenche, thank you for joining us on the News at 10 tonight. And in part 2, after the break, we focus on internally displaced persons in Adamawa State and how they're coping with life in their host community. That's in a moment. Just stay with us.